canteen of cutlery, 12 glasses, a decanter, 2 eiderdowns, and a quantity of bed linen, the property of Sander Struniewski, knowing the same to have been stolen. Morris, are you guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Oliver, are you guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the second count, you are severally charged that between the same dates in the same county.
Have you ever noticed how families sometimes seem to go by opposites? I mean, a laborer can have a son who's a famous surgeon, or a high court judge, a daughter in the chorus. Well, the Olivers were just like that. We first met Elizabeth when we were briefed to defend her last year. Her father had been a parson up in Shropshire, and her mother, a worthy woman, had been quite an authority, I believe, on Roman ceramics. However, by all accounts, her parents could by no means be described as oil paintings. But their daughter, Elizabeth, was just about the most beautiful girl you ever saw in your life. You've seen her then, sir? Poor man's Lollobrigida.
Poor man, nothing. You're a low, prurient fellow, Albert.
Yes, sir.
There's no way to refer to a client.
Not a brain in a head, according to Bodkin.
Some people set too much store on brains, Albert. Not enough on what keeps them off the ground.
That'll be Bodkin now, sir.
Well, let him in, let him in. We don't want to keep the lady waiting.
I wouldn't dream of it, sir.
Afternoon, Miss Oliver.
Good afternoon.
Good time, will you?
Thank you.
Hello, Bodkin. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Albert, some tea for Miss Oliver, Mr. Bodkin.
Tea, sir?
Tea, Albert.
Yes, sir.
Now then, let's get down to business. Miss Oliver, I've read Mr. Bodkin's excellent brief, of course, but I'd like to hear the whole story from you, so if you'll be kind enough.
Yes, of course, I'll try.
Thank you.
Well, I first came up to London from Shropshire about 18 months ago. My father died, and I didn't have any more ties down there, only an aunt and uncle, and I thought I'd like a change.
Your mother was already dead, was she?
Oh, yes, 2 years before. After her death, I kept house for my father and looked after him.
Yes, well, go on.
Well, after he died, I didn't know quite what to do. But a friend of mine in Shrewsbury gave me an introduction to Madame de Meinberg to see whether, well, with my looks and measurements, she thought I might make the grade as a model.
Quite understand that.
Anyhow, to cut a long story short, I got the job as a trainee, and I got on fine. I found a room in Guy Street and settled in. But I didn't have any friends outside my work, you see, and I found it rather lonely. Until one night, one of the other models spoke to me in the dressing room.
Where's the fire? That's the last one, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but I promised Rita I'd let her have this quick. She's got a date. Okay, can you do the zip for me? I can't reach.
Okay, hold everything. Why in hell's name anyone buys these things is beyond me. A zip at the back. Oh, brother.
What's wrong with the zip at the back?
My little Shropshire lass, to most of the people I know, that little tag has Pulby written all over it.
Okay. Right, Rita, ready.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Well, another day over.
And what have you got to show for it?
Oh, I don't know. It's not so bad.
What you doing tonight? I mean, where are you going when you leave here?
Home, I suppose. Why?
Baked beans on toast on a gas ring and then bed?
Something like that.
In a back room in Notting Hill Gate?
Guy Street, actually.
Here, jump into this, quickly.
Why?
Don't argue, girl. Move. You're coming out with me tonight.
Where?
Well, anywhere. I don't mind. But what about the Mushroom Club?
The mushroom? Okay, I couldn't possibly, really.
Why not?
I just haven't got the money.
Nonsense. This is on me. I'm giving the orders tonight.
Well, it's
Baked beans are definitely out.
Terribly kind of you, Kay, but I really don't think we should.
Oh, shut up. Honestly, you take so long over everything.
I haven't got a penny in the bank. The Mushroom Club had only been open a few months, but it was already pretty fashionable. Oh, it was gay and warm, and the people were friendly. And after Kay had taken me that first time, I went quite often. Well, they got to know me there, and the manager asked me to become a member on the house because his people lived in Salop. And then one night, I was there with Kay, and she introduced me to Kenneth Morris.
Kenneth!
Kay!
Oh, where on earth have you been? I haven't seen you for months.
Around. Enchanté de vous revoir, mademoiselle.
Yes, well, not in Paris. Ah, that accent would crack a glass.
Won't you join me?
Thank you.
Luigi, Bring another bottle of the same, will you?
Sir.
And a saucer of milk for Miss Steele.
Very good, sir.
Elizabeth Oliver, Kate Morris. The most elusive man I know.
Only because you chased me so, darling. How do you do?
How do you do?
It's not often I'm indebted to Kay, but this time I really am.
Thank you. Yes, well, you two have quite finished making pretty speeches to each other. I'm going to see Henry. Oh, darling, look, hold this for me, will you? I'll be back in a minute.
Crazy as ever.
I think she's wonderful.
I always have. Would you like to dance?
I'd love to. He was an astonishing person. He seemed to have everything. Good looks, a wide education, and so it seemed, a great deal of money. We were very much attracted to each other. And after that first meeting, we went everywhere together. In the park, on the river, out in the country, shows and everything I'd ever dreamed of. It was inevitable, I suppose. I fell violently in love with him. So much so that, well, obviously things couldn't go on as they were much longer. And last February, he asked me to live with him.
Luigi,
Madame.
fill them up, would you please?
Same again, madame?
Yes, please.
Very good, madame.
What's going on? What's happening?
I'm sorry, Kay, I'm going home.
My dear girl, we've only just come here.
You stay. I can't explain now.
What's Kenneth been saying?
I'm sorry, I must go.
Betty! Betty, come back! Betty!
Let her go. It won't do any good.
But I've got to go and talk to her. I've got to explain.
I think you've done quite enough talking for one night.
Oh, now, please, Kay.
Shut up, Ken. Sit down. Do you know what you're doing?
Look, now, don't start.
Let me just tell you this, in case it may alter your plans in any way. She's a very good friend of mine, and she's young. I don't intend to sit quietly by while you enjoy yourself for a week or two before slinging her out, like the rest.
But, Kay...
Kenneth, don't bother to lie.
I'm not lying. You've got to believe me. This time it's different.
Oh, Kenneth.
You know me too well. I know my record's not too hot, but this time it's really different. I really love her.
Do you? Perhaps this time you do.
Look, I know I may have handled this badly, but if you could talk to her, she'll listen to you.
How'd you sleep? Oh, don't bother to answer, I can guess.
You don't know what he said, Kay.
Oh, yes, I do. He told me all about it last night. Well, I think you should be rather flattered.
I'm afraid I feel rather sick.
Oh, you'll get over it. But on the whole, I think it's rather a good idea. Why don't you give it a try?
You don't mean that.
Now, darling, have you ever known me to say anything I didn't mean?
I couldn't possibly.
Why not?
Well, it's wrong. It's against everything I've ever been taught.
Mm-hmm. Do you think I like this place? Well, I don't. I loathe it. 5 years ago, someone asked me the same question. Quote, it was against everything I'd ever been taught. He asked someone else. Now they're married. It's your life. I'm only asking you to think twice about it. If you love him.
Elizabeth! All right, I'm coming. Kay, I...
Yes, I see. And having overcome your scruples and decided to live with him, how long was it actually before you did?
About a month.
Was marriage ever mentioned?
Oh, yes, it was. It was only on the understanding that he'd marry me later that I agreed to live with him at all.
Where did you live?
We found a flat in Highgate, took it on a long lease and began to furnish it little by little.
With stolen property?
But I knew nothing about that. I didn't know anything at all. He told me he had a friend in the trade, an auctioneer, who kept his eye open for him and got him things cheap.
Couldn't have got them much cheaper, could you?
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was stealing the things. I thought they were second-hand.
Oliver, I must confess I find it hard to believe that you could have lived for 6 months with a convicted thief without learning something of his background or his mode of life.
Well, I didn't. I didn't.
What did you understand his job was?
Journalist. Universal International Press, he said, on the night staff.
And you're telling me that his continued absences at night aroused no suspicions in you?
None. It just never entered my head that he could lie to me. I had no idea until we were arrested.
Is that all you can tell me?
Well, yes. Yes, I'm afraid it is.
Miss Oliver, I'm afraid what I'm going to say to you is going to come as something of a shock. But in my dealings with clients, I've always made it a hard and fast rule not to balk the issue at the start.
What do you mean?
The evidence against you here is overwhelmingly strong.
But that's why I asked for you. I thought if I could make you believe me,
It's
then...
just not what I believe, it's what the jury believes. Now, look, to save you further expense and a great deal of unpleasantness, suppose I bring everything I can to bear on the court in mitigation. Would you be prepared to plead guilty to these charges?
No, I wouldn't. Why should I plead guilty to something I never did? I'm telling you the truth. You must make the jury believe me. You must.
Well, Miss Oliver, if that's your decision, I accept it, of course. Now, if you'll be kind enough to wait in the next room, I'm sure Mr. Bodkin will give you a lift to wherever you want to go.
Yes, of course.
Goodbye, Miss Oliver.
Goodbye.
Well, now, what do you make of all that? I'm not surprised you find her story hard to take, but what can we do?
We can have a go, Mr. Bodkin. In fact, we shall have to, shan't we?
When the case came on, Morris pleaded guilty and the trial of Elizabeth on her own began. And my goodness, she was looking lovely, sitting there as though butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Our hopes of getting her off began to rise.
Mr. Struniewski, please.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence which I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Struniewski, is your full name Sander Struniewski, living at 37 St. Hilda's Crescent, Highgate, and are you musical director of the Monet Orchestra?
Yes.
On May 3rd last, did you return home after touring France and the Low Countries with your orchestra?
I did.
What did you find on your return?
Nothing.
Nothing? What do you mean, nothing?
I found the place completely ransacked, sir.
Yes, thank you. Will you look at Exhibit 5, please? Now, is that a list of the articles which you found were missing from your flat?
Yes, it is. 83 of them.
Valued at what?
£1,307, sir.
And have you been able to identify your property here in this court?
Yes, sir. All the things at the right end of that table are mine. The bedding, the eiderowns, the cutlery, everything at that end.
Thank you, Mr. Struniewski.
No question.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Struniewski. Inspector Briggs, please.
Just a moment, Mr. Moss.
I beg your lordship's pardon.
Mr. Strumniewski, did I understand you to say that the value of that property that I can see there is £1,307?
You did, my lord, yes?
That stuff can't be worth that much.
My lord, that was the value placed upon them by the insurance company.
I'm not asking you, Mr. Moss. I'm asking the witness.
If your lordship pleases.
The 2 cigarette lighters are gold, my lord, and the canteen of cutlery is solid silver, and was valued recently at over £500.
2 gold cigarette lighters?
Yes, my lord.
Well, I really don't know. The Monet Orchestra must be doing very nicely, Mr. Struniewski. Yes, very well.
Mr. Struniewski, would you just tell the court how you came by such expensive items?
They were gifts given to me as mementos of my various foreign tours. I certainly couldn't afford to buy such things.
Don't think that has any bearing on the case, Mr. Moss.
I respectfully agree, my lord. I asked that question merely to protect the witness. I respectfully suggest that none of this has anything to do with the case whatever.
When I want counsel's advice on how to handle a case in this court, Mr. Moss, I shall ask for it.
My learned friend and I are always at your disposal, my lord.
Get on with your case, Mr. Moss.
If your lordship pleases. Inspector Briggs, please.
I swear by Almighty God, the evidence which I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Henry Briggs, Detective Inspector, New Scotland Yard, my lord.
And please lead if it will enable you to get on with your case more quickly.
Very much obliged. Inspector, on the night of the 25th September, Was the prisoner Morris arrested and charged with housebreaking and receiving stolen property?
He was, sir.
Did you go to his house the following morning and find there the property, Exhibits 8 to 75, which are before me here, and which have been identified to us this morning by Mr. Struniewski and the 5 previous witnesses as being theirs?
I did, sir.
Later that same morning, did you see the prisoner Oliver at her place of business, and did you there arrest her after caution and convey her to Warren Hill Police Station?
Yes, sir.
And after being charged with the offences on the indictment and further cautioned, did she then say, "It's all a mistake, they can't be stolen"?
She did, sir.
Thank you, Inspector. I'm much obliged.
Not at all. Inspector, it would be true to say, would it not, that Miss Oliver was very much taken aback when she was arrested. In fact, she fainted, didn't she?
She did, sir, yes.
I imagine you've made pretty exhaustive inquiries about her.
I have, yes, sir.
Has she ever been in any sort of trouble before?
No, sir.
What about her relationship with the man Morris?
She lived with him for 6 months, sir.
Oh, yes, I know all about that, but the relationship between them was, in your opinion, genuine and not merely a matter of convenience, either on her part or his?
I think it was a genuine attachment, sir.
In short, your impression was that he loved her?
Yes, sir, I'm quite satisfied of that.
And she loved him?
There's no doubt that she was infatuated with him. She would do anything for him.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily follow, does it, that anything includes the receiving of stolen property?
I have never suggested it did, sir.
And I have never suggested that you have, Inspector. Now, would you answer the question?
The answer is no, sir.
Thank you. And Morris has maintained strongly throughout, has he not, that the girl knew nothing whatever about it?
That's quite true, sir.
Thank you, Inspector. That is all.
Thank you, Inspector. That is the case for the Crown, my lord.
Is it indeed? And we're getting on more quickly than I dared hope. Yes, Mr. Boyle.
May it please your lordship, I immediately call my client. Miss Oliver, will you go into the witness box?
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence which I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Miss Oliver, is your full name Elizabeth Oliver? Are you at present living at Thompson's Hotel in Gower Street?
Yes.
Now, your father was the vicar of Much Ledlow, was he not, in Shropshire?
Yes, he was.
And you were brought up and lived there until his death some 18 months ago.
Yes.
How old were you when he died?
19.
Before you came to live in London, had you any experience at all of life in a big city?
I'm afraid not.
Had you ever been to London before?
No.
Where had you been, apart from Much Ledlow?
Well, we used to go to Shrewsbury and Wellington sometimes. Oh, and twice I went to Birmingham.
Alone or with your parents?
With my parents.
And that was all?
Yes.
Not much of a training, was it, for landing yourself as a bachelor girl in London?
I'm afraid not.
Didn't you have any boyfriends in Shropshire?
Not really, my lord.
What do you mean by not really?
Well, I used to play tennis with boys sometimes and go to local dances. But that's all.
No particular boyfriends, then?
No, my lord.
Yes. Very well.
I'm much obliged, my lord. Now, Miss Oliver, I want to come to the time when you were left on your own. Why did you decide to try your luck in London?
Well, I had no ties in Salop, only an aunt and uncle. And I thought I'd find it rather boring with them, that's all.
Well, was your earlier life such a whirl of gaiety, then? Why should you suddenly find it boring?
Well, it wasn't boring when my parents were alive at all, my lord. Life ran to a routine, but it wasn't a boring routine.
Very well.
Had you any friends in London?
Only the girls I got to know at work.
Were you lonely?
Yes, I was. Very.
Why didn't you go back to Shrewsbury, then?
I didn't want to.
Loneliness was preferable to boredom, wasn't it?
Well, not only that, I liked the work and the people. It was only after working hours I felt it, my lord.
Where did you first meet the man Morris?
The Mushroom Club.
And once introduced to him, did you meet him regularly?
Yes.
And so began the association which has led your footsteps to the bar of this court?
Yes.
Miss Oliver, this is not a court of morals, and I wish to know nothing of your relationship with Morris apart from this. In your statement to the police, you told of the arrangements made for furnishing the flat that you shared with him. Is what you say in that statement true?
Every word of it is true.
Had you any notion at all that certain property being brought into the flat by Morris was stolen?
None.
Thank you, Miss Oliver. Thank you very much.
You needn't look so alarmed, Miss Oliver. I shall only detain you a very short time.
Thank you.
Now, you say in your statement that you understood Morris to be a journalist on the night staff of Universal International Press.
Yes.
Do you know what a journalist on the night staff of Universal International Press earns?
No.
At any rate, you're not so naive that you don't know that gold cigarette lighters cost a very great deal of money, or canteens of solid silver cutlery, embroidered sheets, and pure silk eiderdowns. They're very pricey items indeed, aren't they?
Yes.
Way beyond the pocket of a journalist, wouldn't you have thought?
I have always thought so.
Have you indeed? Then why didn't you do something about it?
I kept telling him I didn't think we could afford stuff like that.
And he, I suppose, then said that nothing was too good for you. He was earning big money, he could afford this, that, the other, and so on.
Words to that effect, yes.
And you believed him?
Yes.
Just like that?
Yes.
It didn't occur to you to try and discover how he could afford such luxuries? You just accepted what he brought home, is that it?
Yes.
Miss Oliver, you're overdoing the act a bit, aren't you?
No.
You're not nearly so dumb a blonde as you'd have us believe.
I'm only telling the truth.
I suggest you are not. I suggest that no girl, not even the dumbest and dizziest of blondes, could possibly have lived in intimacy with a man for over 6 months without having some glimmer of what his real personality was or what he did. You knew all the time where he got that stuff, didn't you, Miss Oliver? But as long as you could have the use of such pretty and expensive things, you didn't care. Did you?
Thank you, Miss Oliver. Kenneth Morris.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence which I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Morris, you have pleaded guilty to the whole of this indictment, have you not?
Yes.
How long have you known Elizabeth Oliver?
Between 9 and 10 months.
And she has been living with you for the past 6.
That is so.
Throughout that period, has she had the least idea that property that you were taking into the flat was stolen?
None whatever, sir.
I'm obliged. Now, you yourself have a somewhat lengthy record, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever been before this court?
3 times, yes.
Have you ever pleaded guilty?
Never.
Why not?
I never saw any reason to make things easy for the police.
Then why are you making things easy for the police now?
I knew that by doing so, I could give evidence on Elizabeth's behalf, and I had to do that.
Why?
Because she's quite innocent of this. It's not right that she should be involved.
Thank you, Miss Morris. Thank you very much.
Do you really love this girl, Morris?
I've always loved her, sir. I always shall.
Enough, in fact, to plead guilty yourself, so as you can tell a pack of lies about her being innocent. In other words, she treads her way to freedom on your perjury and your imprisonment. Is that it?
No, that's not it.
Yes, it is. It is.
Betty, don't be a fool.
No,
Iron Betty.
Take him down.
Betty,
May I have a word with Mr. Dean, Mr.
I
Boyd?
love him. I want to be with him.
Miss Oliver, well, they put us together. We're well on the way to an acceptable.
You only want to be with him.
Well, you won't be with him in any case, and this isn't helping him. It's only making your own chances. Now, look, calm down. Sit down. I shall ask for an...
Well, there it was. She changed her plea to guilty. Whether her conscience got the better of her or whether she was telling the truth before and was lying now, we shall know. But the judge, wise old man that he was, only put her on probation for 3 years with a condition that she wasn't to see Ken Morris or communicate with him all that time. It seems to be working too. She's back in Shropshire now, at least. So here's hoping.